What gear do you buy if you're going to go highlining on a line that's already rigged? This is part one of a 7-part series for our Highlining 101 course, which is a textbook on slackline.com. This is a bunch of small videos compiled together into these 7 videos. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we have them broken down in chapters in the timeline and description below, so you can skip to the part that you want to see or watch it in its entirety. Now, if you already know how to highline, please check out this course, make sure you like the content in it, and share it with people who are new. And if you're new, we hope this makes your journey a little bit easier than ours was. Now, this was filmed over a long period of time, so this is the new studio and lab, and you will see the old studio and the old stuff in my old backyard in this. This was a lot of work done by a lot of people, and we really hope that it's comprehensive enough to make your journey better. Enjoy it. Let me give you a buying guide overview. Let me teach you how to buy stuff, not exactly what to buy in this specific video. You only want to buy things once. It's a lot more efficient to buy as you go and not have to buy again. This is not my success. This is my failure. Nobody needs this many web locks. Nobody needs half the shit I have on this side, even if you are big walling. You don't want to buy things more than once. You really want to plan out what you're going to need for long lining, slack lining, and highlining in a variety of things if you did want to rig all natural versus using bolts. These are really versatile. Span sets are nice too, but you're kind of limited on the bolt thing. You just have to plan out where you're going to highline. I go to Yosemite all the time, and that requires pretty intense hikes, so I like to go lightweight. As you can see, I have a lot of soft shackles. If you are in a place that rarely requires hiking, then you can go with some pretty big quick links and span sets for everything, though it's not entirely necessary. So just remember, if you're kind of strapped on cash, it's better to go without some gear, some is necessary, rather than trying to buy like cheap webbing that you really shouldn't highline on for the park and then have to rebuy webbing once you want to go highlining. So try to buy things once and try to buy the right things in order to save yourself money in the long run. What shoes do you use when you highline? Well, most people don't use any shoes and they go barefoot because they like to feel the webbing. However, someone like myself with bad arches can't highline without shoes, especially the way I chongo sit start is my back foot is sideways and the line's going straight into my arch when I stand up. I can't do that more than once without being in tears, and I can only walk on a slack line temporarily without my arch hurting it there. I have baby feet, so I wear shoes. Now the shoes that I mostly hike in now are the Evolve Cruiser shoes, these lightweight approach shoes. They have climbing rubber on the bottom, so I can actually climb some technical 5s if I am needing to just try to do a one shoe wonder. When I did the Lost Zero Spire in a day, I basically used these shoes because I could hike in them, I could climb the spire, and I could highline in them. Anything that's under, I don't know, 50, 60 meters or less, I don't bother with any other shoes because I can still feel the line enough in these shoes in order to highline slack successfully. However, when I do want to crush, I use these New Balance Minimus shoes that have Vibram soles. The rubber is very sticky, but this honeycomb shaped sole allows me to feel the slack line almost as good as if I was barefoot, or at least I think I am. So these are my go-to shoes. I've tried a whole bunch of other shoes. They also act as a great water shoe for me. I wear them without socks. I wear them without socks when I highline, so I can actually feel a little bit more. And the other great part about using shoes when you highline, or at least being able to do it if you want to, if you go back and forth, is when it's cold out. For half the year, it's pretty dang cold, and it's funny to watch highliners who have to take their shoes off in January tear up because it's so cold outside, whereas I'm still all bundled up, socks on, shoes, and I'm still fine. So it's nice to be able to do a little bit of both. Now the Merrell Vapor Glove trail running shoes, like you see here, are a zero drop shoe. They're just basically flat as hell, very flexible, also with a Vibram sole. However, I found that I didn't feel the line as good. It didn't give me the support I wanted. My foot slipped around a little bit in this because it's just such soft, flimsy, fabric-y edges. I didn't really like them for highlining. However, some people do, and you can experiment with shoes like this. New Balance created a minimus shoe like this for a while before they came back out with their minimus shoe that I like, and they're quite a bit different than the way the ones that they used to have, which these are back out as of currently. These suck. They just sucked. They didn't give you any support. They didn't, they hurt my feet. The bottom, I didn't like how the bottom sole was. So there's a difference between this kind of shoe and this kind of shoe. I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm glad that they came back out with these. I did try water shoes because they're flexible and the rubber on the bottom is just quite a bit thick to where you actually don't feel like it's this thick of rubber, that you don't actually feel the slack line. And they're pretty dang heavy, so I never take them on a hike. So water shoes are an option if you are water lining, but they're not that great. So a lightweight approach shoe or the New Balance minimus shoes are fantastic for highlining. What gloves do you need when you highline? You don't technically need any of them, but they do help, especially if the lines are thin and sharp. Some of the higher tech webbings feel that way, whereas plush, heavy nylon webbings feel a little bit softer in your hand. However, your options are basically fingerless or fingerless. You don't really want to have a full glove, full-fingered glove, in order to have the dexterity you would need in order to rig and clip carabiners and grab the line. So these are big walling gloves. They're made out of leather and they're pretty gnarly. They get to be pretty stiff. If you're really, like back in the day when I was catching every single time, I ended up using these, it's too stiff. These are bicycle gloves, fingerless bike gloves, and I find them to be quite comfortable and protect my hand as much as I need them to when I'm highlining and rigging. Let's talk about what harnesses to buy and what not to buy. Typically, a standard climbing harness is all you need. Now, they do range between $40 for a basic harness to $160 for the Arc'teryx 395A that I have here. This has no seams whatsoever versus, well, that's not that uncomfortable. Now, this is thicker, where this is super thin, and so this is a very lightweight harness. This is actually pretty popular among avid highliners who use them all the time. As long as it's got a waist belt and leg loops with a belay loop holding them, and not like those cheap $17 crappy harnesses that you'd find in a climbing gym rental place. You really want a decent climbing harness. You can buy them used, technically. There's always a risk buying something used. But I mean, I buy harnesses to brake test and they break just fine, and I buy them for 15, 20 bucks. So it depends how desperate you are to save $20. This is holding you after all. But you don't need to spend $160 for a really good harness if you're not like doing this every weekend. So I do recommend adjustable leg loops. The Arc'teryx harnesses do come in a different version that do not have adjustable leg loops. Not worth the risk. It's nice to be able to do the adjustments. Everybody's legs are different. This is a Black Diamond big wall harness. There are Metolius and Misty Mountain ones. This does have 2 belay loops, which I like. Is it necessary? If you're rope swinging, it's nice. If you're establishing high lines on vertical surfaces, it's nice. If you're hand drilling things, if you're sitting in a long time, it's nice. However, it's not very necessary. It's not versatile. It's not something that you're going to use. Want to use all the time, and they're pretty expensive. They're over $100 each, so you don't need to go this extreme. And please do not buy an industrial harness. This is the one I have to use at work. You can see the clip-in point that I have back here. I don't know how I would climb a leash if I fell on this. This has this is a full body harness. This has leg loops that go from under here to here. And it has these buckles. This is great to appease OSHA and be safe. Some harnesses have an attachment point in the front. I don't recommend that either. My friend was able to set up a urban highline where they required that, and he said you can't lean backwards, get your foot on the leash to leverage yourself to climb the leash. You had to be rescued every single time. Cool. Full body harnesses are great for rope swinging, but you can always get a chest harness that complements your normal harness. So please don't go super stupid cheap. Please don't try to get fancy and get full body harnesses. Just get a normal $40, $50, $60 climbing harness to highline with. What personal anchors should you buy? I have never found a personal anchor that I'm just like, yippee, it's the one you should buy. There's pros and cons to all of them. Now this is a single loop that you girth hitch through your either blade loop or your harness, the 2 points on your harness. And you have 2 independent points, which is really nice depending on what you're trying to do. If you're going to do like a space net, this is actually kind of nice to have 2 personal anchors because you're not going to have a leash, and it's nice to be redundant when you're clipping in. These are triple action lockers, which I'll go into carabiners later. I don't recommend them. But as far as this Petzl camming unit right here, it doesn't go this way until you cam it this way and extend it. And it has this ending here. I put a nail through it and put this 2mm thing so I could like put my finger in there and pull. What I like about this is it's longer than my reach. So I'm never like limited. If I want to like clip this and like lean back, I have more working room. However, I find like working around anchors and stuff, it's just a little too long. I'm not as fond of this as I thought I would be. There is a single version of this where it looks just like this, except one rope, and it's orange, and it has the same camming unit at the top. And it's barely, like, you can barely extend your arm all the way. And I wish the rope was just like 12 inches longer. It would just kind of make all the difference. So I don't even have it with me anymore. It's not something I use all the time. What I do like about these personal anchors is that they're ropes. You can fall on this. Let me show you what not to fall on. I love these things. They're adjustable. This is a neat little buckle, and if you lift up on the black part here, it's super easy to extend. The carabiner is actually through this part of the sling and not through the black part. If you clip it to the black part, it'll never hold you because that's the release. However, and then that you girth hitch into your harness. And again, I put a 2mm rope through there so I can get my finger in there. However, if you're clipping this to a bolt and you're working on top of a cliff and you were to fall off the cliff about 1 or 2 meters, if it even held you, this doesn't seem like it would be strong enough. I do want to build a drop test machine to test this because I just don't think it would take like a shock load. This is very static. If it held, your body would break. So this isn't something you're really going to want to like fall on, whereas the rope-based personal anchors, you would. You move around quite a bit when you're on top of a cliff, rigging, walking, tying in. So flexibility is nice, and abrasion resistance. My friend used this just in Yosemite, and Yosemite's not that rough a rock. Cut halfway through his personal anchor, and he only had one. So a real risk of cutting through this if you were to go over the edge. This Metolius Daisy is what it's called, is basically just a bunch of circles, chain links put together. And this gives you quite a bit of flexibility. You can actually build anchors with it. You can rig with it. This is actually pretty neat. This is stuff you can use climbing and big walling. However, I don't see a lot of highliners using it because it's not that adjustable. It is, you just have to manually be clipping and unclipping all the time. Typically, you would just be clipping full length anyways. I just don't see that many people use this. This is better for a climbing situation, but it would work for highlining if you felt like it was worth the other uses to you. So this is a similar design, however, this will kill you if you don't do it right. You want to be, you can see here, this is the loop. It's basically a loop with holes on it, stitched in it. So if you clip this thing, this would hold you if that stitching broke right there. However, if you clipped this and that stitching broke, your carabiner comes off and you die. I mean, you have to make that mistake. It's not likely that you would, especially on top of a cliff edge. I like the length of it for the most part. It goes all the way to the ground. It is kind of lightweight if you are wrapping it around your waist when you are highlining. It's not as bulky. However, again, it's not like that adjustable. Those Petzl single roped adjustable daisies are pretty popular, but this works. This is pretty cheap. And ironically, this might be my favorite personal anchor after exploring all the other ones. This is a Prussel Prusik. You can Google how to tie this. It's basically a fisherman's knot at the end, and this is basically just a giant loop that you fold in half and you tie around itself, making this beautiful Prusik-like knot. And what's nice about it is it holds just fine, but if you were to fall, it actually is designed to slip a little and absorb some of your fall. It's easily adjustable. Let's put the carabiner in there. Being double-stranded, it's not like, if you cut through one, it all comes apart, but having more strands does give you more strength if they're working together. Holds, adjustable, holds, and adjustable. It's actually pretty nice. This one's a little bit long, and this cute little purple one is a little too short. When it's fully extended, it is not a full arm length away. So this one's too short, this one's too long, but if I want to be clipped in and I'm moving around a lot, this is actually really nice to use. If I had something in between, I'd probably use it all the time. However, the bigger it is, when you're wrapping it around your body, kind of have to go around twice to clip it to from your belay loop here to a gear loop here in the back. You don't want this thing like loose and getting caught around the high line. You don't want it getting under your butt. So this is a little too big. This, if I'm not mistaken, is 7mm accessory cord. And it's probably 20 feet long. But you don't need that much to make a Prussel Prusik that would work for you. In the supplementary PDF for these videos, we will put a link to a video that shows you how to make this if you so desire to do this. Either way, you need some way to tie yourself into the rock. If all you have is a 3-meter long piece of rope, you could literally tie yourself in like you're climbing, put a figure 8 on the end and clip it to things. It doesn't have to be super sophisticated. It is nice when it is adjustable. Just make sure you're always clipped in with a personal anchor system, or PAS. Let's talk about what carabiners you should buy. Your number one carabiner that you'll need is for your personal anchor. And the bigger, the better. This is a triple action Petzl locking carabiner. So I have to slide it up, then twist, then open. Whereas this one is just twist and open. I would never buy these again. I don't need it to be that safe. You're still not going to use it on a high line because there's sharp edges on here. It could tri-load. I mean, you can slide across, of course, if you're just not going to stand up, but it's kind of hard to open with one hand. Either way, the point of this is this size is amazing. I can clip to literally anything at a master point or get it over main and back up easily if I am going to clip the high line to slide over. This is a great size for my personal anchor. However, if you're going to buy other carabiners for miscellaneous uses, clipping stuff to you, hat leashes, whatever, I like these Camp Photon locking twistgate carabiners. I don't like carabiners that you have to manually twist the lock on there. It's called twist lock. Don't like those. I like the auto locking ones. So when you let go, it's locked. Otherwise, just use a non-locker. The two carabiners that I prefer after climbing for years and years and years is this for clipping ropes. It's not necessarily great for this Camp Photon carabiner for other stuff, but man, when you're climbing and you're trying to clip ropes to this, it's just fantastic. But my workhorse carabiner is the Black Diamond Oval Wire Gate carabiner. I buy these by the dozen. They're amazing. They fit in carabiners really well. They orientate well. You're building stuff on your anchor. I mean, you don't use these for highline anchors, but you like got to clip stuff to the bolts sometimes as you're building things because everything's that kind of has to be clipped in as you work. I just buy 6 of these. You'll use them. Buy 4 of these. You'll use them. And then buy 1 or 2 of these for your personal anchor. And then you're pretty much set for your carabiners. What line slide should you buy? Well, I believe this is where you should invest some money. There are roller skate bearings that we all used to do. We would take these 1-inch SMC pulleys, we would drill out the rivet and take these two side plates and basically put these ball bearing pulleys, rollers, in between, and then put a bolt through with a locking nut, which is ironically what this is. So that was the old school way, and they do still sell some of these. This one is from Suez Slacklines, and it has this open part, so it sits on the carabiner, but if you take your weight off, you can undo it and take it off, leaving it always attached to your carabiner, which is really nice and clever, solves some of the problems that we have had with having the closed system. However, when I was highlining with it and it was attached to this one so I could clip over really easily, it came, it connected to my harness on the leg loop, and it was like pulling on me, and it was never going to use this again. So frustrating, but it is one of your options. Slack Enov sells the Aidman, which is the same thing as the Suez Slackline version, except it's closed on both sides. It's basically the most traditional line slide there is. Now, the popular one, the one that everyone has today, are the hangovers. Now, you can get hangovers for 44 euro, and they are not stainless steel ball bearings. And I do not recommend them. They do rust, they don't spin as good, and they kind of can damage lines. The one I have in my hand is a stainless steel one for 54 euro. However, they just came out with the new Royale. And this one is a much tighter fit. So they got better wheels, and they are stainless. And it's a pretty blue color. So all of the flossing that we talk about in this course, where the webbing goes in between these wheels, I didn't even notice how much space there was between these until I got one of these. So if you're gonna buy one from scratch, please buy the new Royale. You're not gonna damage webbing. It's reliable, it's solid, it's awesome. They do have a locking version of these hangovers, and I do not recommend them. The wheel spins counterintuitive to what I would do. So every time you try to open it, your thumb slips. And you don't need to lock it. You're not gonna slide across with just that. You're always gonna have a personal anchor. I hate the locking versions of these, don't buy them. There is another option from Slack FR that's called the Roller Beaner. Clever, right? I don't think they're in business anymore, and I don't really ever see them around, but I got to try one just a few weeks ago, and they are horrible. It's not a ball bearing, it's a pin that goes through a long piece of round metal. I mean, horrible. It didn't roll at all. Horrible. Do not buy the Roller Beaner, even if you see them used for $5. Don't even what you'd rather. You might as well just use a big carabiner. It's about that useless. But they do have a new one coming out. Spider Slacklines and Equilibrium Slacklines work together to come out with the Rolex, and that is also the same design as the Roller Beaner. This one continuous bar going across. And that one looks like it'll work really well. It also has a top thing that I'm sure has some purpose for maybe tensioning, and a hole right here to put a string so you can keep it attached to your harness, not risking dropping it. Because sometimes you take it from your gear loop to your belay loop, if you don't do my system, which is have the dog bone always attached to your belay loop. This dog bone, you can buy these dog bones, they're not too much money. For quick draws. Quick draws are what they use in sport climbing, where they have a carabiner on either end so they can clip the rope to it, clip this to the bolt, and climb. And it gives a little flexibility to the carabiners, and the rope can go smoother up. So I just take one of these. I have quick draws right here. And you do need an extra carabiner, which you should have a couple spares anyways. And I keep that on my belay loop. I keep this on my gear loop, and then I can just take this off and put on the Highline. So it gives me a lot more flexibility. You'll see that throughout the course on how and why I choose to do that. But you'll have to buy one of these if you also want to do that. Or I suppose that you could just take a short 6, 7, or 8 millimeter rope and kind of make your own dog bone, since it's never going to hold your weight entirely. You're always going to have a personal anchor or tied into the leash if you're on a Highline. And if you're in America, it takes a little while to get it shipped from Europe, so don't try to buy them 3 days before GGBY Festival. Hey, thanks for watching, but please do not be an idiot and go highlining your first time without going with someone who knows what they're doing. This video series is just to prepare you and help you have the gear and make it so you can practice before you get that special opportunity to finally go highlining. If you already highline, please share this with somebody you might take out so they can go through the whole video series so they're fully prepared to get on that line so you don't have to rescue them. It's better for the YouTube algorithm ecosystem for me to release these once a week. So we're gonna do that every Saturday until they are all out. So you don't have to wait until we do that. We're gonna put the unlisted video links in the description below. So you can just blow through all this, look at the textbook, and move on with your life. This is a gift economy style of education. I believe it's more important to have this information free and available to everyone than for me to get 20 bucks. But it's not free to make. So if you enjoyed the entire course and you read the textbook and you look at the Bulletin Bible and watch all of our episodes, spot us 20 bucks. It really helps. 100% goes back in the channel, as you can see on our donation page on slackline.com. We're a very open book. And make sure you keep your eye out for the Highlining 102 course. We are going to completely finish this and the Bulletin Bible 2021 version before we finish the Highlining Anchor course. But that's going to be, oh, it's a lot more exciting to make that than this series. So we're pretty excited about what's coming. So make sure you hit that like button, and we'll see you at the next video. Cheers.